I ended up being that girl, and the best way for me to release my music was to be honest. And in order for me to do that, I felt like, let me not put my face on my music, let me not put a name on my music, and just give my music the way that it is, as its pure message.
Under dim stage lights, a woman stands almost completely still, oversized sunglasses hiding her face while her fingers move across the guitar with quiet precision. The crowd is locked in, yet most of them still don't know her real name or what she actually looks like. That woman is H.E.R. They called her a prodigy before she could even drive. A little girl who mastered 5 instruments by the age of 3, published her own poetry book at 8, then rose to global stardom while deliberately keeping her identity in the shadows. She collected Grammys and an Oscar, collaborated with Rihanna, Coldplay, and Usher, and somehow still remained one of the most mysterious figures in modern music. This is the hidden story of H.E.R., the quiet genius who built an empire in silence, faced crushing pressure behind closed doors, and nearly lost herself in the process. From child prodigy to award-winning icon, from intense industry demands to a mental breakdown that almost ended everything. This is the side of her the public was never fully shown. If you love deep, honest stories about the artists the world only thinks it knows, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You're going to want to stay until the end. Chapter 1: The Prodigy Who Was Never Allowed to Be a Child. Long before the world knew her as the mysterious artist H.E.R., she was simply Gabriella Wilson, a little girl born on June 27, 1997, in Vallejo, California. In her home, music was not a hobby, it was the air they breathed. Her mother, Agnes, a Filipino woman who worked with rehab patients during the day, was also a drummer. Rhythm filled their living room almost every evening. Her extended Filipino family was packed with musicians, guitarists, bassists, singers, who turned ordinary gatherings into spontaneous concerts. From the moment she could sit up, little Gabby was right in the middle of that noise, watching, listening, and absorbing everything. By the age of 3, she was already doing something that left her family speechless. She could play 5 different instruments: piano, guitar, drums, and more, with a natural ease that felt almost unnatural. While most toddlers were still learning colors and simple words, Gabby was picking up melodies by ear and turning them into her own little songs. Her parents knew she was gifted. They just didn't yet understand how heavy that gift would become. At 8 years old, she did something most adults never do. She wrote and published her first poetry book, Anything on Earth Poems. The verses were simple on the surface, yet they carried a quiet depth that felt far older than her age. While other children her age were outside playing or struggling with homework, Gabby was already trying to make sense of her inner world through words and music. The real turning point came when she was only 10 years old. On the morning of September 23, 2007, Gabriella Wilson sat down at a piano on the set of the Today Show. In front of national television cameras and a live audience, the small girl from Vallejo began playing Alicia Keys' If I Ain't Got You. What happened next left people in the studio visibly stunned. Her voice carried a weight and control that did not belong to a child. The phrasing was mature, the emotion felt lived in. She wasn't simply copying the song, she was interpreting it with a depth that made several people in the room exchange glances. A 10-year-old delivering that level of feeling and technical command was rare enough to stop the usual morning show energy cold. The performance spread quickly for its time. Clips circulated among industry people and music fans who couldn't quite believe what they were hearing. Talent scouts and executives took notice. In an industry that constantly searches for the next young star, Gabriella had just placed herself on the radar in the most public way possible. What made the moment even more striking was how composed she appeared. There was no visible nervousness, no sense that she was overwhelmed by the stage or the cameras. She played and sang as if the song already belonged to her. For many watching, It was the first clear sign that this was not ordinary childhood talent. It was something more focused, more serious, and potentially much larger. That single morning performance became the moment the industry started paying real attention. The little girl who had been playing multiple instruments since she was 3 and publishing poetry at 8 had just stepped onto a national platform, and she did not look like a child trying to keep up. She looked like someone already speaking a language most people her age had not yet learned. In reality, it marked the beginning of something much heavier. Behind the applause and the bright lights, the pressure of the industry began pressing down on a teenager who had never really been allowed to just be a child. Executives wanted a specific image, a specific sound, a specific story. Gabriella later admitted that the people around her made her feel powerless, as if her own voice and vision no longer mattered. The same little girl who once expressed herself so freely through music suddenly felt trapped inside a system designed to shape her into someone else's version of a star. The constant expectations, the loss of privacy, and the feeling of being molded created a quiet emotional strain that few people saw. While the world celebrated a rising prodigy, Gabby was already struggling with the cost of being discovered too young. Looking back, those early years were both magical and merciless. Gabriella Wilson was given a gift most people only dream of, but that gift also pulled her into a world of adult pressure long before she was ready to carry it. The foundation for her future success was being built, yet so was the internal conflict that would one day force her to step away completely. The little girl from Vallejo who played 5 instruments before kindergarten and published poetry before middle school was already becoming something powerful. She just hadn't yet learned how much it would cost her to survive it. Chapter 2, The 2-Year Silence, How Gabriella Disappeared and Became H.E.R. By 2010, Gabriella Wilson was standing at the edge of everything she had worked for. At only 17, she already had a major deal with RCA Records, national television performances, and the attention of powerful people in the industry. From the outside, it looked like the beginning of a bright, carefully planned career. Inside, she was unraveling. The same industry that once felt exciting had started to feel like a cage. Executives wanted to shape her into a clean, marketable package, a specific look, a specific sound, a specific personality. Gabriella later admitted she felt powerless. Decisions about her image, her music, and even how she should present herself were being made around her, not with her. The little girl who used to express herself freely through instruments and poetry now felt like she was being slowly erased. The pressure built quietly but relentlessly. Long meetings about how she should dress, conversations about what kind of songs would work. The constant sense that her real self was inconvenient. One afternoon, after yet another discussion where her own ideas were pushed aside, something inside her reached a breaking point. She disappeared. From 2014 to late 2016, Gabriella Wilson completely vanished from public view. No new music, no interviews, no social media activity, no public appearances. It was as if the highly promising young artist who had signed with RCA at 14 had simply evaporated. The sudden silence created a vacuum that industry rumors quickly filled. Some people close to the label whispered that RCA had quietly cooled on her. According to those accounts, executives had grown frustrated with her resistance to being packaged in a more commercial way. They wanted a clearer image, more radio-friendly material, and a personality that was easier to market. When she pushed back, the relationship reportedly became strained. A few claimed the label had effectively shelved her, waiting to see if she would become more cooperative. Other rumors were darker. Some industry insiders suggested she was dealing with a serious personal or mental health crisis that made it impossible for her to continue at the same pace. There were quiet conversations about burnout, anxiety, and the emotional weight of being pushed into adult industry pressures while still a teenager. A handful of people claimed she had reached a breaking point after a series of difficult meetings and had walked away to protect herself. A third version of the story circulated among those who had worked with her earlier. According to this account, Gabriella herself made the decision to disappear. She was said to have grown deeply uncomfortable with the direction her career was being steered and chose to step back entirely rather than continue on someone else's terms. In this version, she spent the time writing in private, questioning whether she even wanted to remain in the industry, and trying to reconnect with the version of herself that existed before the label meetings and image discussions began. What made the disappearance especially striking was how complete it was. In an era when most young artists stayed visible through social media even during slow periods, Gabriella left almost no digital footprint. Friends and collaborators from earlier years noted that she became extremely difficult to reach. For nearly 2 years, the girl who had once performed on national television at age 10 seemed to have chosen total invisibility. By the time she eventually returned under the name H.E.R., the rumors had already created a strange mythology around her absence. Some believed she had been broken by the industry. Others believed she had deliberately erased herself in order to take control. The truth, as it later emerged, contained elements of both pressure and personal choice. But during those 2 silent years, the speculation only grew. The disappearance was not just a pause in her career. It became the defining mystery that would later fuel the power of her return. The mystery only deepened. She appeared in oversized sunglasses and rarely showed her full face. She gave almost no interviews. She let the music speak. In an era obsessed with constant visibility and personal branding, her silence felt radical. Sharp listeners eventually began connecting the dots. When H.E.R. released a cover of Drake's Jungle, some recognized the voice and emotional style from performances Gabriella Wilson had done years earlier. The secret was slowly unraveling, but she continued to protect her anonymity for as long as she could. This disappearance and quiet return became one of the most fascinating artistic reinventions in recent R&B. Gabriella didn't just change her name. She created a new identity that allowed her to reclaim control. By hiding her face, she forced people to focus on the music instead of the packaging. For the first time in years, she felt free. The oversized sunglasses were not just a visual choice, they were protection. A way to share her deepest emotions without completely surrendering herself. That 2-year silence and mysterious return laid the foundation for everything that followed. It proved something powerful. Sometimes the most effective way to finally be heard is to step back and refuse to be fully seen. Chapter 3, From Anonymous Voice to Award-Winning Force, 2017-2021. After her quiet return as H.E.R., everything moved faster than anyone expected. What began as a low-key, almost secret release quickly grew into one of the most impressive rises in recent R&B history. Between 2017 and 2021, H.E.R. transformed from a faceless new artist into a multi-award-winning figure whose music carried both personal emotion and larger social weight. It started with recognition from the industry itself. Her early projects, H.E.R. Volume 1 and Volume 2, earned her 5 Grammy nominations in 2018, including Best New Artist and Album of the Year. She won Best R&B Album, a clear signal that the decision to put raw feeling ahead of image was working. The same industry that once tried to reshape her was now celebrating the authenticity she had fought to protect. Then came a moment that pushed her far beyond music. In 20, after the murder of George Floyd, she released I Can't Breathe, a heavy, aching protest song written in response to police violence against Black Americans. The track became closely tied to the Black Lives Matter movement. In 21, it won Song of the Year at the Grammys, placing H.E.R. among the few artists to receive that honor for a song addressing real injustice. Standing on stage with tears in her eyes, she dedicated the award to those still fighting for justice. The song was no longer just a record. It was a public statement from an artist who had once hidden her face and was now using her voice for something larger. The awards continued. In April 2021, at only 23 years old, H.E.R. won the Academy Award for Best Original Song for Fight for You from the film Judas and the Black Messiah. She joined the small group of artists who have won both Grammy and Oscar honors. The song's message of justice and resistance matched the direction her work had taken, moving from private emotion toward broader social commentary. Her live performances during this period carried the same weight. At Super Bowl LV, she delivered a powerful version of America the Beautiful, while playing electric guitar, commanding one of the largest stages in the world. She also joined Coldplay on tour, performing in front of 60,000 to 80,000 people night after night, sharing the stage with Chris Martin, trading guitar lines and vocals. She showed she could hold massive crowds with the same intimacy she brought to her recordings. What made the rise even more striking was how carefully she still protected her privacy. Even at the height of her fame, H.E.R. rarely showed her full face. The oversized sunglasses remained a constant choice, a deliberate way of keeping attention on the music rather than on celebrity culture. In a time when artists were expected to share nearly every detail of their lives, her restraint felt intentional and rare. By 2021, she had achieved a combination few artists reached so quickly: critical respect, commercial success, cultural impact, and a sense of personal integrity. The girl who once felt controlled by industry expectations was now standing on major award stages on her own terms. Yet the intense schedule, the emotional weight of the work, and the constant demands of that level of visibility were already building toward a breaking point. The golden years of 2017 to 2021 showed what she could become when she refused to compromise. The next chapter would test whether she could survive the cost of that success. Chapter 4, The Breaking Point and the Quiet Rebuild, 2022 present. Even at the height of her success, H.E.R. was coming undone in private. In 22, she was living a version of the dream most artists chase. She had just finished a major tour with Coldplay, performing for tens of thousands of people every night. She had Grammy and Oscar wins, acting opportunities, and a schedule filled with high-profile work. From the outside, Gabriella appeared to have arrived. Behind the scenes, the reality was different. She later described sitting alone in hotel rooms after shows, still in stage makeup, staring at the wall as the adrenaline faded and a hollow feeling took its place. Questions she had never allowed herself to ask began to surface. What am I doing this for? Who is all of this really serving? For the first time, the artist who had always seemed driven by clear purpose felt lost. The constant travel, the pressure to deliver, and the weight of being a public voice for larger causes had worn her down. She was exhausted and emotionally drained. She would later call it her breaking point. The same intensity that had carried her from child prodigy to global recognition was now burning her out. She realized she had been moving on autopilot for years, letting schedules and expectations shape her life more than her own needs. In response, she made a deliberate choice. She stepped back and entered what she described as a selfish phase. For the first time, she began saying no to overcrowded schedules, to projects that did not feel right, and to the version of herself the industry still expected. She turned her attention toward mental health, solitude, and figuring out who she was when the work stopped. During this period, she reconnected with songwriter Diane Warren, someone she had briefly met years earlier as a teenager. Warren had a song she felt belonged with H.E.R. The result was The Journey, a raw ballad that captured the weight Gabriella had been carrying. She recorded it in a single emotional take, tears running down her face. The song became both a release and a turning point, helping her process the pressure and the identity questions that had built up over years. Slowly, she began to rebuild. By 2023 and 2024, she appeared more grounded. She spoke more openly about mental health and the need for boundaries in the industry. Her music reflected a quieter confidence, less concerned with momentum and more focused on honest expression. Age of 26, her life looks more intentional. She prioritizes creative freedom over constant output, spends time mentoring younger artists, and continues selective acting work. She still appears less frequently in public and continues to favor the oversized sunglasses that have become part of her presence. Rumors have occasionally linked her to Skip Marley because of their collaborations, but she has never confirmed any personal details, remaining consistent in her preference for privacy. Today, she describes herself as being in a healthier place, more comfortable with solitude and clearer about protecting her well-being. The artist who once felt trapped by the industry has learned how to keep creating without fully surrendering herself to it. The crisis of 22 did not end her story. It forced a more sustainable chapter. From the child prodigy who hid behind sunglasses to the woman who learned to set limits while still sharing her gift, H.E.R. continues to show that lasting success is not only measured in awards and stadiums, it is also measured in the ability to remain intact when the spotlight finally dims. Chapter 5: The Cost of Mystery. What success really looks like now. In the end, H.E.R.'s greatest achievement is not only the Grammys, the Oscar, or the stadium performances. It is the quieter statement she has continued to make in an industry that constantly demands more exposure, more content, and more of a person's private self. You can protect your inner life and still create work that reaches millions. From a child prodigy who hid her face to a multi-award-winning artist, Gabriella Wilson proved that authenticity can outlast carefully managed celebrity. In a culture that rewards constant visibility, she chose distance as a form of control and vulnerability as her main artistic tool. That choice shaped both her success and the private cost of maintaining it. Her influence on younger artists is clear. Many emerging musicians point to H.E.R. as evidence that you do not have to live publicly in order to succeed. You do not need to document every part of your life. You can let the work carry the weight. Across R&B and related genres, a noticeable shift toward more introspective, less image-driven approaches can be traced in part to the space she helped open. Age of 26, H.E.R. remains one of the more respected and deliberately private figures in contemporary music. Estimates of her net worth generally fall between $5 and $8 million, built through albums, collaborations, selective touring, and acting work. More significant than the number is the reputation she has kept, an artist associated with integrity rather than constant self-promotion. Yet the present version of her life is more complicated than the awards suggest. After the intense years of touring, public expectation, and the 22 mental health crisis, she has deliberately slowed down. She appears less frequently, chooses projects carefully, and continues to limit how much of her personal world becomes public. The oversized sunglasses remain part of her visual presence, but they now feel less like pure mystery and more like ongoing boundary setting. There is a quieter tension in this phase of her career. The same privacy that once felt radical can also create distance. Some observers note that her output has become more sporadic. Others question whether the extreme protection of her personal life has made it harder for newer audiences to form a lasting connection. At the same time, those closest to her work argue that this restraint is exactly what has allowed her to continue creating without fully burning out again. Rumors about her personal life still surface from time to time, including past speculation linking her to Skip Marley because of their collaborations. None of it has been confirmed. H.E.R. has remained consistent in refusing to feed that side of the public conversation. The choice protects her, but it also means that much of her real daily life, the relationships, the recovery, the ordinary pressures, stays almost completely out of view. Today, she describes herself as being in a healthier place, more comfortable with solitude, and clearer about what she will and will not give away. She spends time mentoring younger artists, explores acting selectively, and works on music without the same urgency to remain constantly visible. The girl who once felt trapped by industry expectations has learned how to step back. The open question is how long that balance can hold in an industry that rarely rewards sustained quiet. Her story still carries a clear message. Sometimes withholding parts of yourself is the only way to keep creating honestly. By limiting how much of her face and private world the public received, H.E.R. forced attention onto the emotion and craft in her music. That decision created a deeper connection for many listeners than constant access ever could. Looking back, the arc feels almost deliberate. The child from Vallejo who played multiple instruments at 3 and published poetry at 8 grew into an artist who used silence and controlled visibility as serious tools. She moved through early fame, heavy industry pressure, a serious mental health crisis, and emerged more intentional, though not untouched. In 26, her legacy is still forming. She stands as an example of an artist who reached a high level of recognition while trying to protect her peace. She showed that it is possible to speak on larger social issues without surrendering every part of yourself to public consumption. She also showed the limits of that approach. The pressure does not disappear just because you refuse to perform it. From the young prodigy behind oversized sunglasses, to the woman who had to relearn how to exist outside the demand for constant output, H.E.R.'s story is ultimately about the ongoing negotiation between visibility and survival. The courage to step away when the industry wanted more. The courage to return only when she could. And the ongoing work of creating without letting the work consume her completely. In a loud industry, she remains a reminder that some of the most affecting music comes from people who refuse to give everything away. The greatest revelations in her case have always arrived on her own terms. The girl who began with 5 instruments in a poetry book is still writing the next part of the story, more carefully now, and with a clearer sense of what it costs to keep going. Outro, from a child prodigy who hid her face to an award-winning artist who had to rebuild herself after nearly breaking. H.E.R. did not simply succeed in the music industry. She forced a different conversation about what an artist is allowed to keep private. Her path shows that lasting power is not only measured in awards or viral moments, it is also measured in the ability to protect enough of yourself to keep creating honestly. What do you think about H.E.R.'s journey? Where do you see her going from here? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read them. If this story stayed with you, like the video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. There are more stories coming that go far beyond the surface. Thank you for watching H.E.R., having everything revealed and still choosing what the world gets to see. See you in the next one.